the coordinator for the master's program here at the college, and it's my pleasure a second time to introduce Dr. Douglas. I had the pleasure of doing so at our early childhood conference in November last year, and it's a pleasure to introduce him once again. Because if anybody knows the importance of really setting the stage and the ground for fine education at the early childhood, it's Dr. Hixwell. It wasn't until somewhere in his early teens that they discovered his visual impairment. Prior to that, he had been struggling through school because nobody in the early childhood classes at his time were prepared or had the vision to really check on the physical well-being of the child to determine if that was impairing their struggle. Having discovered his visual impairment at the Salvation Army School, Dr. Douglas, his life took off after that. He began as a pre-trained teacher in the infant department, then he went on to Teachers College, pursued a primary education certificate program, then went on to UE where he did a bachelor's degree in primary education, first class honors. He was also the valedictorian, and then he went on to do his MSc degree in human resource development. Again, he was valedictorian, a certificate in life space crisis intervention, and then completed a degree, a doctor of philosophy degree in family literacy education with high commendation. So there are probably quite a lot of Hixwell Douglases in your early childhood classes in front of you. So it really is critical that we give them the best of what we can give at that early stage. We have to change the narrative from very, very early. Dr. Douglas is now an advanced member of the Toastmasters International, and he has the distinction of being the Toastmasters public speaking champion for Jamaica and the Caribbean. And I know you know that he is a motivational speaker, educator, counselor, and really a beacon for all teachers, all educators. So we welcome Dr. Bose and Dr. Douglas to share their thoughts on family life education with us. Please welcome them today.
Good morning, class. Good afternoon, class. Can you all stand, please? Arms upward stretch. Look around, some are having difficulties, but we'll wait on them. It will take them a little time to get up, but we're not sitting until they get up. Up again, down again, clasp your hands. It's the end of the morning session. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. As we move into the next session, I'm asking you now to take your seat. Class is going to take a little longer than we expected, but all the things that we are sharing this morning, we're belly full. Am I right? Let me recognize our grace and the other members of the religious team, the sisters and teachers. We are here because we want to share with you, based on what Deacon Ron said, and I'm asking for your support. We have had some technical challenges, but he made mention of, well, the presenters, based on what I've heard since morning, I would want to take it home and keep it. But I cannot of the technological challenges. Oh, thank you. Thank you. I am asking Deacon Ron if it would be at all possible that all the presentations be packaged and sent to us at another time. Is that possible, Deacon?
Yes, it has to be ready.
Because this is rich. And what I'm sharing, I would want to know that I can put everything together. But to begin with, I have brought some handouts, which I can leave with you, I can only show you. All the early childhood teachers. Okay. Can't pick it up. Okay, colleagues, just understand it's hard for Polly to keep still, but I am going to stand firm. Your Grace, in the name of the Father, I have to stand up. But let me try. There are challenges with your teacher this morning, so work with me. What I would want you to do when you get a chance, because of the background in early childhood, I'm sharing the session with Dr. Hixwell, so I'm going to have to hold it tight. There are some booklets or books, pieces of information I want you to keep. Make sure you get the handout from the Early Childhood Commission. And class, what is this saying? Start them early, so I don't have to go through that. The second one is the National Strategic Plan. It might be somewhere in your library. Get hold of it. And the third one, 2015, a special education draft policy. Teachers, these are important documents that we would want to make sure we take hold of. Now, early childhood, where it all began. And I'm sitting here facing our Grace Archbishop Kenneth Richards, who was at the 180th anniversary launch at St. Mary's College on Tuesday. Archbishop, my only regret is that after this I won't get communion. But I just want to share with you, teachers in the early childhood sector, 2 points he made, and I got up at 3:15 this morning to ask the Holy Spirit what I'm to say. We must understand that the child that is sitting in front of you, that child has been placed in your class for a purpose. And we have a responsibility to shape this child into all that we are hearing and what we would have wanted. He reminded us, and the psalm that was used on Tuesday was Psalm 1. Now, the early childhood movement education started because of the church. After, and I see one of my colleagues shaking her head, after slavery was abolished, and you know the history, some of you, just remember, it was the late Reverend Henry Ward up in Islington said, Mary, look through the window. And when he saw the number of children playing in the streets after parents were not allowed to go out and work on the plantation, he said it was very pathetic to see the children. And he called a group. I don't know if any men were there outside of Reverend Ward. He called a group of ladies in the church and said, let us do something for them. So it started with the church. And that is where we have to go back to remember the purpose. And it was out of that, some of them were, if you look at the pictures, were sitting on the veranda, under trees, but they were out there. And the first thing that was presented to them, what was their textbook? Not the New Testament, the Bible. And Archbishop reminded us of how important it is. And I'm asking us, I walk with my testament, because my Bible is too old to travel with, but go to Psalm 1. The next piece I'd like to share with you this morning, coming out of what Archbishop did, was that the celebration for St. Mary's primary, started 180 years ago. But it's the first time again, Archbishop, that I am seeing that this church service was outside on the basement down at the bottom level where the school started. And when it was time for the Eucharist consecration, our Archbishop took time. I've never seen this done in my life, Master Teacher. And he walked us through the process. And the children were just staring at him. And when he said, "This is my body," only for one thing, you know. But they were looking at him. And when he took the chalice and said, "This is my cup." And I noticed that we were running late. The children were there for a little while. So some of them wanted to go to the bathroom. You see, when the Archbishop stood up and began that part of the mass, a teacher who is not a Roman Catholic, because I know the two of them, came and stood and allowed the children to just wait. Isn't that respect? Teacher, answer me in a class. One is an Adventist, I don't know if the other one goes anywhere. But she just stood up like that so that we could go through the reception of the Eucharist at that time. When everything was finished now, and we sang the hymn, we built our school, I had to get up because with special needs I was there too long. When I went round the corner, I saw some boys half a communion. I practiced in the sidewalk what they saw the Archbishop do. Colleagues, are you with me? Yes. I am hoping Sunday coming, one or two of them will ask their parents to take them to church. They were impressed with what our Grace did. You're a master teacher. And just the way it was handled. Colleagues, our schools must be a place of worship. And before I take my seat, I am asking you to practice. And in your all Catholic school, if you have one Catholic, two, or they're having a mass, have the children line up and go into church in an orderly manner. If the children are coming from homes where their parents are not Catholic, you will understand that. Now my speech begins with on 5. Hold up your finger for me. 5 minutes. And I have to understand how important it is. That child that is standing in front of you, that child has a name. And I'm asking you to identify, teachers, the name of those children. No aliases. I'm a justice of the peace and some of them don't know their names and they cannot spell it. Use their correct name. The second is that they belong to a family. They must have a mother and they must have a father. And you should get the names of those parents and let them realize that the child belongs to them. You should have a feeling of what is happening at home. The three, and all of that knowledge is coming from the Holy Family, those of us who understand what it means for Joseph to have taken on this new role that he is going to be the foster father of our Savior. And for Mary saying yes. The third finger, and I hope you're working with it, is that child has to be presented with the curriculum. And the curriculum is the guide because we're going to have to begin with prayer. I also want us to understand that within the family, you can't wait until the child goes to Sunday school or church or listen to prayer out in the road. The prayer must begin at home. And before you go through the door in the morning, when you get up, hold up your hand and pray. Before you go to bed at night, pray. And Archbishop emphasized that. And I'm hoping that at least one child will go home and say, "You never pray, mommy." Because whatever they get now, at the early stage, will remain with them for life. And what is it that we want? What test will they have? The test is to train up a child the way the child should go or grow, and when that child becomes an adult, that will be able, and Grace told you all of it. We are setting the stage. Last but not least, we have to model. We are evangelists. We are out here to evangelize. And what I'm faced with this week is that a number of my early childhood institutions, teachers are gone abroad or gone somewhere else. I'm begging you teachers who are here, if you want to give up the job, give the school enough notice so that you can be replaced. And for the Ministry of Education, so we have a number of teachers who have replaced these persons and they have not been paid. Teachers, that's what I'm faced with. So if you want to leave the work, remember the Lord knows the plans He has for you. And if you want to go, you're free to go. But ask Master Jesus, who will take the children? One school I had The first week they had to go back there with 11 babies, nobody to teach them. And for the Brain Builders program, Deacon, one is the best thing in the ministry since sliced bread. I am asking you to go on the, what you call it now, on the internet, the Brain Builders program. There is money in the program. The program will take care of your early childhood unit if it satisfies the demand. Use the internet to get updated. I want to thank you and hand over now to Brother Hixwell. Remember that child is sent before you for a purpose, to fulfill God's promise. Thank you.
I think we should clap this man for his sweet boy shirt.
No, man, that's good. Yeah. Yeah. Chairpersons, Archbishop, religious brothers and sisters, all pleasant good afternoon. And you know, as I look around the room, I said, boy, it's so nice to see you all. You know, what was very interesting as I listened to the introduction and heard all those nice things about me. I say, it's a good thing she didn't have a full list of everything. Because my name is not just, I don't like the Dr. Douglas part of it, but I like when I to tell you that I'm really Hixwell Alexander Alfonso Altamont Adolphus Douglas. And being here, as I walked up, I said, boy, I wonder if I'm the only VIP in the room. Not really very important person, you know, the only seriously visually impaired one. And as I thought about that, I said, but you know, you're probably not so right, you know. Because if you look around the room, you see a whole heap of people in glasses. And it means that something not so right. But brothers and sisters, I want to share with you today, just talk a little about, just to reason a little about what's happening with special education at the early childhood level. Let me just say, first of all, though, one of my proudest periods at teaching is being an early childhood teacher. I did 2 years in National Youth Service some many, many years ago. Then I went to the Salvation Army and did 1 year in their infant department. Those 3 years set the foundation for me to be who I am today. And one of the very important things that happened during National Youth Service was having a little rap session with some children, a small group, when a little boy, Donovan, said to me, "Teacher love everybody else, but him no love me." And it made me wonder, what did I do or not do to cause him to have that kind of feeling? And it also helped me as the years went by to reflect on my own situation as a person with a disability. And as you interact with parents and children who have children with special needs, notice that the person comes first. I am a person who happens to be blind. Me no blind man. So when we talk to parents of children with special needs, we realize that these parents have children first who have problems. The language is very, very important. But who are these children we're talking about at the early childhood level? We're talking about children who have sensory problems, not seeing, not hearing very well. Those with orthopedic, physical problems. Those with intellectual problems. Can't reason intelligently, can't go beyond a certain level. Those who have processing problems, speech problems. Those who have bladder problems. All of these things. But in addition to those persons with special needs, we're talking about some very bright persons who wear Rhodes scholars and them kind of thing there. Yeah. Like my former minister and deacon, Brother Ronnie. People who are very, very bright. And these are some of the children who a lot of people at the early childhood level kill, you know. Because they ask so many questions. They refuse to do things. They talk back to people, and we say, oh, them faced it. And at that stage, we kill the vibes. We kill the energy, not realizing that these children are gifted and talented. Any wonder we have one of the most talented people in prison right now who's one of the baddest DJs around the place in prison, because guess what? We missed him. We missed him. So what I'm saying, teachers, administrators, members of the clergy, is it is going to be very, very important for us to be able to identify our children who have special needs early. You're not psychologists, so you can't diagnose them. But they are giving us all kinds of hints. When I used to buck up in chairs and buck up and run up to the blackboard to get a peep and teacher say, boy, go sit down. Why are you coming up here so often? We have to be smart enough to identify that something is wrong. And if we can identify that, then we must identify the people and the sources who can help to correct some of these problems, to diagnose some of these problems. Thank God for Mama. Mama was able to identify pretty early. When I was sweeping my hands all over the place to pick up small objects that everybody else could see. Only me alone was searching and swinging my hands all over the place. She picked up that I was always bumping into things. So Mama went to school and started talking to my teachers. Put him up at the front. Make sure that he sit with his back to the window because the glare of the sun was giving him a problem. I am saying, teachers, you have many children sitting before you who have problems. They can't stand still, sit still. Like a friend, my good church sister who was up here a while ago. Can't keep steady. Because in the good old days, I would say that she ADHD. Attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. And all of that. But because I have a little bit of it too, I'm not saying anything. But the reality is, you have a boy or a girl who can't sit still. It means that something is wrong. It's not quicksilver in their head. So we identify that there is a problem and we start thinking about how are we going to help this child. When we are able to identify, but see, all we're doing, we are suspecting that these children have a problem. But the psychologists will determine what's going to happen. And we know we have problems with assessment. So when I sat there and heard Archbishop saying that we are going to be having soon a system in place to do some assessments, I say, praise the Lord, brother, praise the Lord. Because we need, you see, it is hard. It is easier for, most of us don't realize that we have to first understand. We need to try to understand before we are understood. And when a lot of the parents, some of us just send for parents when children not doing something right. But if we understand that they are having a genuine problem, when the parents come, we talk to them with love and respect, These are parents who are suffering from self-esteem problems. Some of them are embarrassed that the child not doing well, that the child not seeing, hearing well at the early childhood level. And when we call him in all week and say, the picnic now this and the picnic now that. We never call in the parents to say, wow, did you know that your son, your daughter is doing so well? What we're going to do to maintain that? Your son, daughter is so helpful. What are you doing at home? How can you help us at school? So what we're saying is at the very earliest phase, we have to identify these children. If you have a sore foot and you not dress it, it will broke out. Bad. So when we have the children at the early childhood level, we have to identify what we suspect is happening. And then we try with what we call early intervention. And you don't have to go have no big nothing to intervene, If a child jumping up and down, running up and down, fighting, eating out children food, it could mean that the picnic hungry, Didn't have no breakfast, Child sleeping every minute, it could mean that a child didn't sleep the night before, If the child not learning, it could mean that something is wrong up here. You see why looking at everybody and you say, but him not look blind. Yeah. You have to identify, and when you find these problems, a child eating out another child's lunch every day, work out something at the canteen, A child fighting every day, Father fighting mother, mother beating up father every day at home? We have to investigate. Because these children have their own special little problems. Now, there is a wealth of information on the internet about learning disabilities, intellectual disabilities, about all the emotional and behavior disorders, all kind of things are on the internet. And it is going to be instructive for us to go and to check out some of these things. Information is now free and easily accessible. And we can go there and do it. I remember when I used to go to school as a child with vision problems, some of my little colleagues used to call me name, blind eye boy, two eye dopey, and all kind of things. When you see that happening at your school, what do you do about it? What do we do about situations like those? And, colleagues, I want to say to you, it's going to be very important for us to be proactive. At my church, they say, boy, him look bright. And them say, you have to go read at church, Oh, by the way, I must tell you the story that I was at my office one day having a merry good time and thing when Dr. Polly come there and said, by the way, where you live? And I said, I live in Stoney. She said, which church you go? I said, I am associated with ICC Immaculate Conception Church. She said, what do you mean by that? Man, you have to go back to church. The church wants you up there. So Polly led me back to church, and she come lead me up here this morning. Insight. So what I'm saying, with all that is happening, teachers, we're going to realize that we have to look way ahead, The National Disability Bill was just passed. You see, how we treat with parents and their children will be considered. If it's positive and healthy, that will be great. If it is negative and disrespectful, it is going to be considered as discrimination. A lot of early childhood facilities, primary, a lot of schools are going to run into trouble. When somebody test the child at the early childhood level, and you say, no, I can't take this one may fit the profile. Can you imagine at the early childhood level, you look at a parent or at a child and you reject that child? Mother Teresa, it is said, says, at the end of our lives, it will not matter how much money we have in the bank, the size of our house and the kind of car that we drive. Those things will not matter. What will matter is that I was hungry and you gave me to eat. I was naked and you gave me clothes. I was homeless, not from want of a room built of bricks, but homeless because of a thing called rejection. Where somehow we are going to tell God, say, when we reject the child in the class because we said that one I can't learn at the early childhood level, instead of putting in a little program. I failed common entrance 3 times, technical entrance 2 times, grade 9 achievement test 1 time. And one of my teachers said, you not going to get no scholarship in your life, so take what me again. And guess what? I'm minion Dr. Douglas today with a first class bachelor's. Thanks to some teachers who had a positive, healthy attitude, who kept saying, you can do it. Something wrong with the eye. One teacher buy me a bottle of tonic powder and said, this can help with your eyes. She gave me hope. Are we giving those little children at the early childhood level hope? They come to school with so much enthusiasm. The little colleagues sometimes don't even notice that they are different. But what we do to them as adults, turn them off for life. Do you want to be caught found into that category? Let me look around the room and see if anybody can see anybody who will do that. Me no see nobody in here, because what happened? Wisdom. Be ye transformed with how we think about persons with special needs. We have to change our thinking. That kind of thinking is what I call stinking thinking. We're going to have to see these children at this level differently. We have to view the parents differently. You know, at church, some people going to church and they drive them fancy car and go to church and them drive past the mother lifting up the big boy because he can't go have a wheelchair and drive past and go to church to go listen to pastor. Would you listen to him? You know? So we have to make a difference where that is concerned. Because all of us have a little beauty in us. You know, the story is told about this man who was carrying water with 2 drugs on his shoulder, you know. 2 earthenware worn drugs. And he go down to the well every day to carry water to his master's table. But one of the drugs had a big crack in the side. And every morning when he full the 2 drugs, by the time he reach up, one leak out half. And the one with the crack said to the master, just throw me down and broke me up. Finish away with me, because I am not serving any useful purpose. And the carrier said to him, tomorrow when we're going down to the well, look on your side of the road and see what you see. And when the drug was going on, everything over there was dry and parched and dying. And he said, when you're coming up, look on the other side where the water is leaking out. And it saw flowers that were healthy, green and blooming. And the carrier said, every morning I am able on that side where you leak the water to pick flowers to adorn our master's table. What we're saying, these children like me can adorn a table, can come up here to a microphone and talk. And I'm saying, you don't know when your child or your grandchild at the early childhood level is going to want the motivation, is going to want to be identified, is going to want the intervention so that that child can get a good start. We have to do that because what goes around, yeah, and the seeds that you sow, you will. Hello, some people are wonder what make nothing go on for them. You know how many children we kill at the early childhood level, like the little boy who said to me, teacher love everybody but him don't love me. We have to correct that, colleagues. Very, very, very important. And as I wrap up in the interest of time, I just want to say to you, you know, some time ago, a married couple took their child to Sunday school. And the child had multiple disabilities. And the teacher just couldn't deal with it. The child made funny sounds. And she just thought that the child couldn't learn nothing at all. But Easter was coming up. And she said to them, I'm going to give each of you 1 empty egg. And each of you must tomorrow come back here with something in that egg that shows growth. And this little boy, she said, you know, I should have called his parents. You know, she didn't remember because she had a broken pipe the night in the house. The plumber and everything. And the day came when all the children brought their eggs, placed them on the table. And she opened one and she saw a seed and she said, wow, this is good. This seed suggests growth. Then in another one, she saw a little butterfly. And she said, this shows growth. It's coming from that source to this source. And she went on and on until she picked up one, and when she opened it, it was empty. And she said, oh my God, this must be that little boy. And she quietly put it aside. And he didn't normally speak, but that day he said, miss, aren't you going to talk about my egg? And she said, but it has nothing in it. And he said, no, miss. You in your class told us that Jesus died. And on the 3rd day, he rose again. That is why the egg is empty. She never thought that this boy was learning anything. But the boy was absorbing. And she never imagined that he was learning. How many children with special needs sitting down before us in our classrooms? And we ignoring them and say, we can't bother with that one then. We go work with the bright one then. We go work with the one then we can move on. Where would they go tell Master God say? Colleagues, Having heard all of this today, I just say I wanted to reason, because the same thing could have happened to me. But through the mercy of God, I am able to stand up in my church and to read the lessons and watch the people and I say, what, you really are reading? Yeah. And I am able now to stand here and to share with you and to say, we will have to make a difference. The difference is with you. God bless you.